Hello, hello, hello. It is Monday night and that means it's time for...
Let's talk about...
Did you notice, look, I'm wearing a scarf today.
What does that even mean?
I'm rocking the Young Living branded gear. Look at that. Do you know where I got that from?
From the Alaskan cruise.
Alaska. And look here on my windshield as well. Alaska. Young Living.
Are you sponsored?
I am, yeah. I'm going to be the sponsored athlete. Actually, I'm way too hot in this. Hold on. Oh, okay, it's not that cold. So it is Monday night, and that means it's time for...
Let's talk about.
And every Monday night we're here with some good information. It's education, it's inspiration, it's perspiration, it's...
Occasionally funny.
Occasionally funny, just not right now. This is Kim, I'm Jeremy, and tonight it's Let's Talk About...
Well, how are we going to sing this? The difference between the frankincense species?
We're going to talk about frankincense, okay? That's the deal.
You just like to make the singing bit of the song easy.
I know, yeah, because anyway, we're going to talk about the differences between frankincense and sacred frankincense, but we're also going to talk about other frankincense.
How many species of frankincense do you think there are? Comment below if you have an idea.
Yep, without Googling. All right, let's roll the music, because anyone can find out on Google.
Yo, I don't think we should talk about this. Come on, why not? People might...
It's like I'm on TikTok.
No, you've got to do the dancing thing that Caitlin does about TikTok.
Okay, let's lip sync. You ready? Frankincense. Blew that one totally.
Did your kids listen to TikTok?
Frankincense.
Frankincense.
Frankincense. Frankincense.
All right.
Okay. All right.
If you guessed that there was 42 species of frankincense, you'd probably be correct.
I had no idea that there were that many. Although I guess it doesn't surprise me, but we don't really hear about all species, do we?
No, because a lot of them aren't produced in enough quantities to actually make them viable. So, like in terms of turning them into an essential oil or a resin or anything like that. So.
Okay, so do you want to talk us through some of the... Well, so Young Living, basically, they sell two types of frankincense.
Although in the past, they've also sold Friana. So
okay, well, do you want to talk us through some frankincenses?
All right, so...
Frankincense.
I won't talk about where Frank gets its name, because Jeremy's going to do that one. But in terms of the botanical species is Boswellia, okay? And that gets its name from James Boswell, who was a botanist, and he went to the Middle East and studied, I guess, the plants and things like that. So that's where the Boswellia bit comes from, is his last name, Boswell. Now, his associate, who's really interesting, I guess, to me, was... I can't think of his first name, but Professor Carter.
We'll call him Bob. Bob Carter.
He was the person who found Tutankhamun's tomb. So if you've been to the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, like I have, then it's so funny because a lot of the tombs in the Valley of the Kings are up the hill, and Tutankhamun's tomb was down the bottom of the hill because he was one of the last, I think he might have even been the very last pharaoh to have been buried. And so it was only by accident that Professor Carter even found that tomb.
I can just imagine they said, Tutankhamun, your tomb is now ready. Oh, you're at the bottom.
He was like the baby pharaoh. He was quite young when he died and stuff. So, but anyway, Egypt stuff absolutely fascinates me. And so it's interesting that Professor Carter is who Boswellia Carterii, the botanical species of the frankincense, the main frankincense that Young Living sells, that's where that gets its name. Whereas Boswellia Sacra, the sacra comes from the sacred, or it was believed to have been the biblical frankincense, if you like. So there are a couple of other different species. Boswellia friana, Boswellia papyrifer, or papyrifer, I think it is. Boswellia serrata. Boswellia serrata is the one that comes from India, and it's often thought of as the poorer quality, so it gets turned into a lot of incense, but yet some essential oil companies will actually sell Boswellia serrata, and people think that it's the same quality as Boswellia Carterii or Boswellia Sacra, when in fact it's not. When you go online and you find out all about the amazing qualities of any of the frankincense, like the Boswellia Carterii or the Boswellia Sacra, those amazing benefits that they're talking about are about those two species, not necessarily about some of the others.
So not all frankincense are the same.
No, they're not.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. All right. So so Young Living has two frankincenses, frankincensi, that it sells, and as Kim said, it's Boswellia Carterii
Yep.
and Boswellia Sacra, and so we know them as frankincense and sacred frankincense. So we want to talk a little bit about the differences between those two things, because I mean, I guess the first question I had is, why did Young Living come up with two? Like, why sell two different frankincenses? Why not combine them, or why not just sell one?
And some companies do. Some essential oil companies, actually, their frankincense is a blend of a number of different frankincense species, and they do that for a couple of reasons. Because then they can add in the cheaper frankincense to make their frankincense cheaper.
Yeah.
And frankincense is one of the most adulterated essential oils in the world. I think they estimate that there's something like 1,000 times more frankincense sold per year, like labelled as frankincense,
Then there is harvested.
because they just extend it so much. Even like a lot of frankincense might be jojoba oil, and then you've got a 3% dilution. So for every 100 drops in that bottle, you've got 3 drops of frankincense, the actual pure frankincense oil. And that's why they can sell it so cheap. So often people say to me, oh, I had this ad come up in my Facebook feed and it was for frankincense oil for $12. How do they sell it so cheap?
Totally pure.
And I say it's because often if they're an okay company, it'll be because they've diluted it in jojoba oil. But unscrupulous companies will sell off either cheaper frankincense oil like Serrata or something like that, or they'll even adulterate it further by adding things like propylene glycol and nasty chemicals or alcohol to actually extend it. And it's, you've hardly got any real frankincense in your bottle at all.
Yeah. So essential oils are a bit like guitars. You really get what you pay for. I've seen crappy, cheap guitars and people go, wow, why don't I buy this? Because it's terrible.
Yeah.
It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And that's sort of the point, isn't it, about essential oils? If you buy cheap ones, then chances are they're synthetic or watered down. They're not going to give you the results that you want. Alrighty, so let's talk about the two different frankincenses. We'll start with, and we're going to do a little comparison, okay? So frankincense, Boswellia Carterii, Young Living get that from Somalia,
which is about where 80% of the world's frankincense is produced, is in Somalia.
And Somalia is known for a few things at the moment. It's civil war. It's known for terrorists running the country. It's known for piracy. It is one of the most dangerous places in the world today, especially the capital city, Mogadishu. So that's where our Young Living frankincense comes from. Compare that with sacred frankincense, which comes from the country of Oman, which is a sultanate. So the head of the country is a sultan. You'll find that at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, and it's surrounded by United Arab Emirates and all kinds of, it's that area of the world. It's a very safe country in comparison, known for tourism and oil. So that's where it gets its main money from. So two different places.
There are also very different places where, and I don't know whether you were going to talk about this and I've just cut you off, but in terms of, if you have a look at the pictures of the frankincense trees growing in Somalia, they look very much like they're growing in rocks and desert and things like that. And if you look at the ones that grow in Oman, in the Darfur, is it? Darfur, I don't know, it's Darfur Valley. It's more like a plateau and not quite as rough. Yeah.
Both of the trees, they're both really tough and they're both really hardy. They can grow with very little soil, rocky ground. If you've ever seen them, they actually bloom, so they have white or pink flowers. But they're like spindly, like tough-looking trees, which is quite fascinating. Both grow in extreme conditions. What else can we say? They're both the essential oils both come from the gum resin of the tree, and we'll talk about how they actually harvest that in a sec. Where does the word frankincense come from?
Well, it actually, I thought you were going to talk about this one, but it's actually a French word, franc. Meaning, well, you said coins or
Gold coin.
gold coins, yeah. So, an incense. And in the Bible, frankincense is listed lots and lots of times, but often, and it depends what version of the Bible you actually own, but often it'll be called olivimum, meaning sort of oil of Lebanon, or and it actually, that olivum actually is an Arabic word meaning milk. So the milk of the tree.
We'll come back to that because that's quite interesting. Alrighty, so the gum resin, which is what it is. We actually have some here, which is quite fascinating. So,
and I'll show you what the resin burner looks like.
yeah, so Young Living actually sell frankincense resin to go in a resin burner and dig out a big chunk of it, because basically this comes off the tree, and we'll talk about. Let's go really close here. See that? That's the resin. So, interesting story. The people who harvest this, they actually they wouldn't chew all of it. They chew the first lot of stuff that comes off. They have very white teeth.
Because they cut the tree actually 3 times. And the reason they do that is to get to the more pure resin inside.
Yep. So the first cut that they do, scrape it off, and they cut a small part of the bark of the tree gently. And when they do that, the first resin that comes out is actually quite white. So then they leave that because that hardens up. And it protects the tree. Basically, it holds in the moisture and keeps it from getting, infected and diseases. They come back 10 days later, and then they scrape that off, and basically they pretty much throw that away, because although it's slightly aromatic, it's not the stuff that they want. And then they'll scrape the tree again and let the sap come out and harden again. They'll go back 10 days later, do it again. And the third time, when the sap comes out, instead of it being white, it's actually kind of yellowy brown, very aromatic, and that's the stuff that they keep. And evidently the harvesters, they'll cut a tree up to 7 times during the season to get the resin
And
out.
some of these trees are up to 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
So they're very, very protective of their trees. Yeah. I've heard of people, trying to steal frankincense and they've had their hands cut off and things like that. Like, punishment over there is a whole different ball game to stealing in Australia. And it's because they are so, so protective, because this is their livelihood, and it's been their families and their community's livelihood for thousands of years. They don't want anything bad to happen to these trees. So that whole cutting process is done in a very, very specific way.
Absolutely. All hand harvested, so it's not like there are machines going and doing this stuff. All right, well, let's talk about the difference between frankincense essential oil and sacred frankincense essential oil. Because you would think that the trees are fairly similar, they would give similar kind of essential oil, wouldn't you?
So how I like to think of it is Boswellia Carterii, which is the one that comes in the red bottle. I like that for skin. That's not to say that you can't use it for meditation and spiritual purposes and all of those kinds of things, but it's definitely my go-to for skin. The main constituents in that is alpha-pinene, but it's only 30 to 65% alpha-pinene. Boswellia Sacra is much higher in alpha-pinene. It has D-limonene, 8 to 20%, and beta-caryophyllene, 1 to 5%. So they're the main ingredients in Boswellia Carterii. Whereas Boswellia Sacra, so the sacred frankincense, much more alpha-pinenes, more 53 to 90% alpha-pinenes. And that's why you see all those studies that have been done on that particular oil and the therapeutic benefits.
Yeah, definitely look up alpha-pinene. It's fascinating stuff. There's a lot of research done on that.
And the other thing that I should have mentioned in the Boswellia Carterii isn't on Jeremy's notes is that it's high in incensol. That's one of the main ingredients in that one as well. Whereas Boswellia Sacra not so. But it is also great for your meditation, your spiritual practices, which is why I think someone before said something that they also love ancient Egypt, and when I went to Egypt, I've even got my necklace on. But when I went there, I went in the souk, and the souk is like a big market, and they actually pay people, like that's a job over there, to walk around with an incenser. So not quite like this frankincense resin burner, but it's
like one that
yeah,
swings?
like the one that swings in the Catholic church and stuff. And they get paid to walk in and out of the shops and cleanse the evil spirits from the shop. So after one person's gone in, then they come in and they swing it around to cleanse the spirit of that person, so that a new person will come on in case that person left any evil spirits in the shop. Wow. And it's so interesting because churches do that as well. Like the Catholic Church has the incenser and they put the frankincense resin in it. And often when people smell frankincense, what the memory that triggers is going to Catholic church when they were a child. So.
Or Anglican church at Christmas time.
There you go.
Because my dad used to do that, and guess who got to swing the incense?
You.
I did, yeah. Although my brother actually did it better. He could do like tricks and stuff. But anyway, do you reckon you can tell the difference between the two?
I'm hoping so, because I wanted to do a test run beforehand and he wouldn't let me because I never let him.
Okay, so they are subtly different.
Well, and I guess one of the biggest differences, if you want to tell the difference between good quality frankincense and the serrata that I was talking about before, serrata has a really orangey sort of smell, whereas Carterii and Sacra have a really lemony type light sense, whereas that's really heavy, the serrata, whereas this is light. But there is a difference between the Sacra and the Carterii as well, so I'm going to give it a go.
Okay, so you got to close your eyes. I'm going to show the people at home which one you're getting first, so don't yell out anyone.
I'm sure they're going to yell out.
Okay, here we go. Here's the first one for you.
I'm thinking that's Sacra.
Okay, and the second one. Let's see how you go.
Are you going to trick me and give me the same one again?
No.
And Carterii.
That's
right?
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, well done.
I'm not an aromatherapist for nothing, but anyway.
So what was the difference though? How did you?
I guess I've used
yeah.
Boswellia Carterii a lot more, so I do clearly recognise that
Yep.
smell. Whereas Sacra is just a little bit more earthy and balsamic a bit.
I think it's like sweeter and softer somehow. If that makes sense. Yeah.
So,
Alrighty. Now, Young Living use both of these products, or both of these essential oils in a number of blends of products. So just quickly, frankincense, you'll see that in obviously Boswellia wrinkle cream.
which gives you an idea how amazing it is for skin.
Yeah. Three Wise Men blend, highest potential, forgiveness, abundance, and valor. Okay. And then you'll find sacred frankincense in Sheila May.
Also good for skin, but different.
And it's also in Progescence Phyto Plus, which is interesting. And that was all I could find. They don't use them in a whole heap of different things. What else do you want to say? Anything you want to say about either
just
of
in terms of skin, I thought it might be interesting to know that frankincense was actually used as part of the embalming process of mummies. And it was found
So for all you mummies out there, this will keep your skin looking good for a long time.
for a very long time. And I guess it was found in a lot of tombs. It was a very, like a currency, if you like, and I guess, as Jeremy said before about the name franc coming from coins, it was deemed to be a currency of the time, and that's why it was put into tombs in alabaster jars, and because therefore the pharaohs could take it into their next life, and that would be their currency to pay for whatever they needed in their next life. So frankincense and myrrh were often found in alabaster jars in tombs
And interestingly, they still found it, so it lasts a long time.
And it is actually listed on the Ebers Papyrus, which is the oldest scripture, would you say?
Yeah.
In the world.
The oldest recipe book.
Something
in the
like
world.
dates back to the 16th century BC. So there you go.
There you go. So fascinating stuff. Awesome oils. Both of them, aren't they, really? I love both of them. I use both of them in all kinds of ways. So, anything else we need to say?
No, I think that's it.
That was awesome. So interesting. Do your research. I'll tell you what we will do. We'll put a link in below here there's a great little video about them harvesting the frankincense. So we'll link to that so you can check that out too. Young Living Harvesting.
Yep. All right, we will see you same time, same channel next week. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.